Hey, what's up, everybody? This is John, the date Dr. Clark, as usual. And y'all, we're going to take it there this evening, this morning, this afternoon, or whenever you all are deciding to look at this video. Um, but are you in a toxic relationship? You know if you are. You don't need to read a book. You don't need to look online. You don't need to even look at the YouTube. You know if you're in a toxic relationship. I got a couple pointers I want you all to kind of look at. I got some things I want you all to be very mindful of. I have some things that I want you all to be able to think about. I got some things I want you all to be able to capitalize on, because at the end of the day, you know if you're in a toxic relationship. You know that you're doing toxic things to each other. So let's talk about being comfortable. Are you still comfortable? Or were you ever comfortable with your partner? By comfort, I mean, how do you feel about talking to him or her? How do you feel when you're around him or her? Do you feel on edge? Do you feel super anxious? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like you can't really necessarily be yourself? You feel like you need to make up excuses not to be around this person? How comfortable are you? Do you feel the need to even want to lie around him or her? Do you feel that need? Do you feel no liking or no desire to just speak with them, to converse with them, to interact with them, to tell them that you love them, just to be there? Or do you feel a heck of a lot more comfortable just to be in other places? Do you feel a heck of a lot more comfortable to be around other people? Do you just feel uncomfortable in their presence in general? Something to think about. Got another thing. What about you all's level of communication? How often do you all talk? I mean, are we talking just simply because we have kids? Are we talking just only about kids? Are we talking about, everyone else's drama? Are we talking about just solely bills? Are we talking about just complaints? Are we just only talking about issues? Y'all, I want you all to be mindful of what I'm saying. But you know already. You know that your relationship, you know that your friendship, you know that your marriage is toxic. You don't need to tune into my video to see that it's toxic. You don't need to pay very close attention to the title of this video to know that more than likely you're in a toxic relationship. And it may be time for you all to get help. But also maybe time for you all to go your separate ways. But something to think about in regards, to communication. Are you all having the same basic conversations every day? Now, as a disclaimer, I know there's millions of couples out there that have been together for 10, 15, 20 plus years. And, they're having those repetitive conversations. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily a toxic thing, because sometimes that's just what we get used to. But when I'm explaining toxic in our relationship in regards to communication, it's an addition to being uncomfortable. And, the addition now in reference to communication is, we have no desire, no willpower to even discuss anything else outside of the kids, outside of issues, outside of paying the bills. We have no desire to do any of those other things because we've stopped caring. It's extremely toxic, and we can care less about discussing anything else. But you already knew that. You knew that what you're contributing to the table is very toxic. You know that your lack of wanting to contribute, you know that your lack of even wanting to converse, to communicate with this individual has now transitioned into something very toxic. You know that. Just stating some facts. But I got a few other things. What about what we're doing, for each other? Are we doing nice things for each other? Or are we not? Now I realize sometimes, we do those nice things when it comes to birthdays, holidays, anniversaries. Sometimes we do things simply because we've messed up. But what about outside of those days? What about those other 360 days where there is not a holiday, where there is not an anniversary, where there is not a birthday? What are you doing on those other days? Do you not have a desire to want to do it? Could you care less? Does it bother you? Does it bother you to even want to do any of those things on those outside days? Do you make excuses for yourself that you don't want to do those things? Do you feel like your partner's more likely making those excuses? But y'all, this is kind of some of those things that we think about on a daily, every second, every minute, every hour when we're in toxic relationships, toxic friendships, but unfortunately toxic marriages. But I want you all to be mindful about what I'm saying. Now, you know that you're in a toxic relationship. Again, you don't need to look at the title of my video to confirm it. You already know. So I got a few other things that I want to talk about. Tell me about how you're sleeping. Are you even sleeping at night? Are you staying up late throughout the day? Well, no, let me phrase that. How are you sleeping? Are you even sleeping at night? Do you find yourself staying up 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning? Not because you think something is just extremely bothering you, but a lot of times when you're stressed out, a lot of times when you're depressed, a lot of times when you're constantly making irrational decisions, a lot of times when you decide to stay in something that you've emotionally left, it taps into your psyche, it taps into your mind frame, to the point where you're not even thinking about it, but because your spirit is so filled with that toxic information or that toxic situation, that your body has no other thing to do but to stay up, because your body is so anxious. Your body's constantly going. Your brain is constantly going. So when your brain is not settling, when your brain is not relaxed, when your body's not settling, when your body's not relaxed, it's going to be just like the Energizer Bunny. But when your body gets exhausted, when your body gets tired, when your thoughts begin to change, if they do, a lot of times your body will get, it will get exhausted, it will get tired. It'll be time for it to rest. And that's usually the very next day. And unfortunately, that's the life that we've decided to live. Not to say that the life that we have an obligation to stay in, but it's a life that we've decided to make a choice to kind of stay in. So I got a couple other things I want you all to think about. Sometimes, we get to a place where we don't even want to be around each other, and it feels wonderful. Is that you? More than likely, yes. But you already knew that you were in a toxic relationship. You already knew that it was time for you to leave. You already knew that you were going to stand for popularity. You already knew that you would stand for the sake of the kids. You already knew that. But you're seeing the signs. Again, you've seen the signs for years now. You're seeing signs right now in this video. I'm confirming some of those things. But that's kind of why I made a video, because it's talking about toxic signs in a relationship. And do you have it? Whether it's a friendship, whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's in a marriage. But we enjoy being we enjoy not being around that person. We enjoy working those 12 to 16, 17, 23-hour shifts, because it keeps us away from him. It keeps us away from her, because we would rather not be surrounded by them. Everything about that person bothers us. Every scent, every taste, every smell, every idea, every thought, every time that ticks on the clock, because they're getting ready to be home. Y'all, I'm not sounding like I broke a record. I'm not making up anything. I'm only confirming what's in your mind. I'm only confirming if you're watching this video late in the morning, or late at night, or in the afternoon, or in the morning. I'm only confirming what's already in your mind frame. I'm confirming that you're more likely in a toxic relationship. But let's continue. I got a few other things I want to get off my chest. A lot of times, we're in that toxic relationship because, we don't want to go anywhere else. A lot of times we'll stay in that relationship because we have an influx of cheating that's been going on. And who wants to start over? Who wants to show the world that things didn't work out? Who wants to see the disappointment in our children's eyes when mom and dad are constantly cheating on each other? Who wants to see that? Those are some of the things that we're thinking about. Those are some of the toxic beliefs, toxic, thoughts that we constantly are being mindful of. And y'all, those are toxic things. A lot of us are being cheated on multiple times a year, monthly, daily, and we sometimes know. But what do? We still stay, because we don't want it all to go away. We don't want it to end. Unfortunately, that's how some of us think. Doesn't mean that there's something psychologically wrong with the individual, but y'all, there's something wrong. Nobody's perfect, but that's why we're making a video, because I want to explain to you all that we have a lot of toxic things that are going on in our relationships, but we're still choosing to stay. Something to think about. What about those times, y'all, that we're not even interacting with each other? We're not even making those efforts to want to interact. We would rather be in 3 different places. We would rather be in 2 different styles of the household. We'd rather be in 2 different places. We can care less about what other person is doing. We no longer communicate. We're no longer doing those necessary things, y'all. Y'all, we're in toxic situations. It's to the point where we actually enjoy not being together, not being around each other, not missing each other. Y'all, we've now transitioned to something that's very toxic, and you know that already. That's why you're more likely watching my video. You don't need confirmation from me. You already have the confirmation. Sometimes we just want to hear it from a complete stranger. And if I'm that complete stranger for you where you need to hear it from, then my job is being done. I'm very appreciative, and I'm very thankful that you're tuning in. But I got a few more things that I want to kind of run by you all. What about if we become very physical with each other? What about when it becomes very verbally aggressive? You already knew that was toxic, but guess what? You decided to still entertain it. You decided to be not only on the receiving end, but you decided to be the aggressor as well. But you knew it was toxic before you swung. You knew it was toxic before you spat on his face or her face. You knew it was toxic before you even responded. You even confirmed that it was toxic because you decided to do those things and you still stayed. But you knew that already. But ladies and gentlemen, before I let you leave, I've kind of thoroughly expressed some toxic things that, we may see on a daily basis in our relationship. You know that your relationship is toxic. It's time for you to get help. It's time for you to learn how to exhaust all options before we decide to throw in the towel. What does that mean to exhaust all options? Exhaust all options is another way of saying that we need to look at everything that's going to take to get our relationship, get our friendship, get our marriage back in good standing, back in good shape. And if we're willing to do that through counseling, if we're willing to do that through prayer, if we're willing to do that through speaking with someone, if we're willing to do that by trying to separate to get our thoughts together or to allow us time to miss each other, if we're willing to do those things and things are still not working out and you can honestly say that you're giving it your all, then by all means, it's time to wipe your hands clean from that toxic, destructive relationship, friendship, or marriage that you knew a very long time was going straight to hell. Again, I know a lot of times we don't want to stay in it. Well, I know a lot of times we want to stay in it for popularity reasons. We want to stay in it because we don't want our kids to see that mom and daddy didn't work out. We want to stay in it because we don't want the world to see that things didn't work out. We want to stay in it because we don't want to start over. And I get it, y'all. But I'd rather for you to be happy. It's not a good feeling to stay in something and to be emotionally unhappy. It's not good to stay in something that we've already emotionally left. We can actually do more harm than good. A lot of folks say, it's cheaper to keep her. But at the end of the day, it's actually, more expensive to keep a person that we're no longer in love with. It's more expensive to stay in something that's very toxic, that's very stressful. It's actually more expensive, if you get my drift. Stress is expensive. I mean, I can go on another 30, 45 minutes telling you some of the things that will cost, that will begin to add up if we decide to stay in something where we're just emotionally unavailable or emotionally happy. So again, this is your boy, Johnathan Clark. Are you in that toxic relationship? And those are some of the signs that I previously gone over. Feel free to like, share. Follow me on my YouTube channel, The Date Doctor. Feel free to look me up on my personal personal/business website, www.thedatedoctor.com. That's TheDateDocta. You all have a good night. Take care. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon. Feel free to tag someone in this video that really needs to hear it. All right? Take care.